Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out to the Consumer Day of Cannabis Con, part of the Cannabis Canada forums. In just a few moments, we're going to be hearing from Brianna Martin. She's going to be giving a Cannabis 101 overview and a frequently asked questions that they hear at the Compass Cannabis Clinic. So in just a few moments, we will hear from Brianna and I believe two others.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited you guys were able to join us, and being the first speaker of the day is super exciting. We are Compass Cannabis Clinic. I'm Brianna Martin, and one thing you don't know about me is I always roll with a posse. No, I'm just kidding. But I've been very, very lucky in all of my companies and all of my positions to have really, really great team members around me. So I asked two of them to join me. We're able to kind of hit all of the questions that you may ask from different directions. This is Krista, and she is our marketing director, so I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Krista Lusted, marketing director for Compass Cannabis Clinic. I've been with Compass for about 7 months now and really loving to be able to market for an organization that's coming out of prohibition to be in the industry and working on lots of fun stuff. It's good times, and this is Melanie Perrin, our training coordinator.
Hello, everybody. It's a privilege. I'm very excited to be here and get a chance to speak with you about some of these incredible educational points. Compass Cannabis Clinics is someone I'm extremely excited to be involved with, working as their training coordinator. So let's get going.
So a little bit about Compass Cannabis Clinic. Obviously, we're a clinic network like lots of others. We just facilitate patients having safe access to cannabis through meeting with physicians and gaining their prescriptions. So what we're going to be going over today is a high level of Cannabis 101. If we don't touch on all of the aspects that you want to learn about, feel free to ask questions. The other thing we're going to be doing is going through frequently asked questions that we hear very regularly from our patients. Just due to the crowd, I think that would be really helpful. And we find most of our patients are asking these questions or a variant of. So we'll go about our mission, vision, and values. So our mission is obviously, like I said, to help patients gain safe access to medicinal cannabis, the education process that goes through that as well. Our vision is to be the largest and most trusted cannabis clinic, although there's lots of space for everyone, and we have quite a awesome competitors here as well. Our values are all centered around innovation, knowledge, and technology. And advocacy. I always forget that one for some reason. So we are growing at a very rapid rate, which is super exciting for us, but also exciting for the general population because we can then be there to reach everybody. So right now we have Red Deer and Banff open. You'll see 2 Calgary locations open in the next 2 weeks. And then the bottom is just confirmed that will come in the next 7 months or so. So how it works, if you've never been to a clinic, we say it's easy as 1, 2, 3, although there's lots of things that go into each one of those points. So it is a free appointment that you would come in and see a physician. We then educate you and help you register with a licensed producer or an LP, and we'll get more into that later into the conversation. The other thing is we help you register and able to order the medicine online that ships right to your house.
So the reason why we're sharing a little bit of information about us is with you guys is just to really let you know that the patients that are coming to us a lot of them are new to the industry and not familiar or comfortable with the different options that are available. So all through this process, we really focus on patient education and helping them determine what products best suit their needs. And that's where a lot of the frequently asked questions, that's what it revolves around.
So why cannabis? We're all here for this. I think something to start off with that's a very key and important factor is that each ailment in each person is extremely individual. Up on the slide, you'll see multiple reasons why people go to cannabis. Alzheimer's being at the top, going to cancer treatments for chemotherapy, and everything far and few between. Cannabis does not work the same way for everybody, and it interacts with your body extremely differently. So to do a blanket statement and answer how these would work for everyone is a little bit too general. So to keep it on a Cannabis 101 strain area, yeah, pun intended, you can feel free to drop by our booth and ask me specifically about all of these individual things, but to keep it on a general sense, cannabis is used for a variety of medicinal uses.
Yeah, I mean, generally we're finding patients are coming to a cannabis clinic because they have mostly exhausted all of the other prescription drugs out there. Maybe they're not working for them. Maybe they're not, they're not liking the side effects of the prescription drug. They're looking for a more natural way, and that's why we have really educated physicians to help you as well as really educated staff. So a lot of people don't know what LP stands for, and it's for licensed producers. We have a few licensed producers in the house, so thank you. If you have more questions, you can go up to them and ask them exactly what they do. But basically, it's a licensed producer. They're governed by Health Canada to grow medicinal cannabis, and they are who you order your medicine from. There's lots of things out there, online dispensaries, or in other provinces they're allowing dispensaries, and those are not legal. So that is something we hear from our patients often. We'll start the conversation about licensed producers, and they will say online dispensary that they have ordered from in the past, and they are always surprised to hear that those are actually not legal in Canada. So you can search on Health Canada's website a list of approved licensed producers, and that is the legal way to gain your medicine.
So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the licensed producers that we work with. It's all the best in North America.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is different. Obviously, there's a few in-house. Tweed Main Street has a lot of brands that focus under their umbrella. But then you see some smaller ones. All of them have great products, and the great thing is that they're different. And so you can really, when you're speaking with the patient, go through what actually suits them the best and put them up with the best LP for their prescription and maybe their specific consumption needs. So I touched on this a little bit. Is it really legal? And yes, the ACMPR was created by Health Canada, and it's the way that you access your medicine legally through licensed producers. It stands for Access to Cannabis for Medicinal Purposes Regulations. And basically the process is you get a prescription and you order from the licensed producers. There is a lot of paperwork, and we'll just keep it on a high level for that. Yeah.
So a lot of times when patients come to us, they really, again, I touched on this earlier, they don't have any idea where to start. And so we really focus on patient education and putting them through the process. And it's really first connecting them with a doctor, getting that prescription, getting some information to share that information with the licensed producer to be able to provide product or recommendations that best suit their ailments.
All right, so I know most of you have probably heard of THC and CBD. THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, CBD, cannabidiol, are the two mainly discussed cannabinoids in cannabis. The big obvious difference would be THC is responsible for the intoxicating effects that people commonly discuss and feel, so it is what gets you high. CBD has some other incredible effects on your body, definitely medically focused, and incredible science is starting to be done on those things. On the slide, it'll show you some of the 4 points on each. THC starting with anti-nausea, pain relief, appetite stimulator, and the intoxicating effect. CBD, anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, muscle relaxant, and non-intoxicating.
I think one thing that might surprise some of the patients out there or the general public is that most of the scientific or medical background or I guess studies have actually been on THC and not CBD. However, it is starting to gain popularity. CBD is very widely used and talked about amongst patients. CBD oil is becoming very popular with the licensed producers or high CBD strains. So we're definitely excited to see more of those documentation coming out about CBD.
Next question.
So the recommended usage, I think that's what's up next. Obviously, I think that the stigma in out in the public today is, rolling a joint and smoking it, but it's actually not the safest way to use cannabis. If you do want to have inhalation, then we do suggest that you vaporize, and there's lots of products out there that would help you do that. We kind of touch on that next, but that is the safest way. Edibles are illegal, but you can make your own. And then there is the oils that you can buy from the licensed producer as well. The way you consume does affect your body. If you do ingest it, it gets processed through the liver, and thus you do have a consumption level, or I guess your intoxication is longer, so it stays in your body for longer, where inhalation almost acts within a few minutes, but doesn't last quite as long. So that's one thing to just keep in mind when we're talking about consumption.
Just back to some information about cannabis. How can I get the medicinal benefits of cannabis without getting high? So that comes in with CBD. Cannabis is made up of many different compounds. It's not one whole thing. There's different attributes, THC being one, CBD being another, both holding entirely different medicinal benefits and both interacting together differently in each individual's body. That brings me to the whole plant medicine discussion. I'm sure lots of you have seen it mentioned about how consuming cannabis as a whole plant does different individual effects than consuming individual parts of that, being THC or CBD. So this is commonly referred to in the industry as the entourage effect. Your body will absorb in increased or decreased in different situations amounts of these chemicals and react accordingly in each circumstance. So it's very specific, it's very different. Our bodies are designed to utilize the individual components, and the health benefits are really just beginning to be discussed.
Yeah, and then it just says, vape pens, vaporizers. So I think this is something that our patients generally get confused about. In the illegal market, there is talk about that you can vape oils and there's concentrates. That is not legal today. And the reason we really talk about what's legal and what's not legal is we're finding a very big confusion in our patients, or when they come to us, they're surprised of, what they do see on the internet and what actually is. So you can get a vaporizer for dried flower, and that is the only way you can use a vaporizer with the products out today. And maybe sound like a little bit of a broken record, but again, this is the confusion and the education that we're seeing on a regular basis with our patients that come into our clinic.
Ooh, sativa, indica, and hybrids. I like this topic. It's an area that people commonly use their terminologies to help us classify different types of cannabis. Sativa being more of a cerebral effect, people generally will lean towards a strain of sativa cannabis during the day. When you're looking for a mood booster, antidepressant, something along the lines of you want to get up and go and be creative. You also have the opposite, which would be indica. Indica, indicouch. So it tends to be a very body, yeah, it's funny. We can laugh about it. So it tends to be a very body-orientated experience. Beautiful for pain relief and a sleep aid, if there's anybody out here who stayed up way too late last night. It also helps with anti-nausea and pain relief. I mentioned that. We also have the middle ground, which is hybrid. This is my personal favorite because it kind of combines, my opinion, the best of both worlds. So in this industry, our wonderful growers have been able to take the best qualities from sativas and indicas, crossbreed them, and produce hybrids. Most of the time, you can look into a hybrid and see the chosen characteristics of the different plants. It's a really wonderful middle ground for a lot of people that kind of gives them the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that on a medical note, the medical properties of the plant in terms of the strain doesn't necessarily change, but it may help with the symptoms that you're having. You may find that one, sativa helps a different symptom than indica. So that is important to know. They are, similar compounds or exactly the same compound. So they have a lot of the same medicinal benefits, but they may help your symptoms in a different way. So again, that's very important to speak with the patients about.
Yeah, so like a good example with that would be anxiety. I know a lot of people, there's been some controversy around marijuana use for anxiety. Sativa, that is a very cerebral situation. That's going to be right in your head, right where your anxiety is usually located. In those situations, that's not the right route for you, which is why the strain identification really, really helps a lot of people navigate the cannabis plant.
So we have some other high-level questions. Can I get a copy of your prescription? We don't give a copy of prescription at Cannabis because we give the original to the licensed producer, which follows the ACMPR process. The next one would be, can I travel with my medicine? And the answer is yes, within Canada. Okay, you cannot travel to the United States with your prescription, and this does surprise some people because they think if it's illegal or legal, I'm allowed, but unfortunately not. The other thing is the wait time to order. That does really depend on the licensed producer, but generally we give an average of 5 to 10 business days to cover anything that arises, and the licensed producers get a lot of patients, and so sometimes they're a little backed up, but we do our best to make it as fast as possible. And then not a lot of people know that licensed producers cannot do edibles. Again, you're seeing those online dispensaries that are selling edibles that are not legal. So licensed producers cannot sell edibles. They are not allowed. However, we have a few lovely favorite recipes, and we give those to our patients if they are interested in consuming the medicine that way. And we just talk about, again, how it affects your body, what's the difference between your consumption methods. Yeah, sorry, Krista just reminded me that I forgot to say that the prescription is listed on the packaging. So when you go and get antibiotics from a pharmacy, you'll have the prescription and your name and the doctor's name. It's exactly the same for your licensed producer or your medicinal cannabis.
Meaning your product needs to stay in its original packaging. You can't transfer that. Ooh, terpenes. Okay. So you know how I said cannabis is made up of multiple different things? Terpenes happens to be one of them. On the screen you can see that there is 5 distinct terpenes that are usually discussed when you're talking about cannabis. Anybody familiar with aromatherapy? Yeah. So terpenes are everywhere. It's not a cannabis-specific compound. All plants. So pinene, for example, pine trees. The name's super similar. They've made it really easy for us. Same with linalool. Lavender, and limonene. To give you an example of how this is applicable to cannabis, sativas tend to have a high concentration of limonene terpene in there. I'm not sure if people in the back can see, but it says anti-anxiety, antidepressant, and found in citrus. So for example, the rinds of an orange have limonene in them. Terpenes are extremely important to pay attention to in cannabis because they really direct the effects and kind of shape your experience and can be profoundly beneficial on their own, as well as mixed with the cannabinoids.
Yeah, the other thing we have up there is, can you switch from one medical clinic to the other? The answer is slightly complicated because you cannot have 2 functioning prescriptions at the same time. You can only have one functioning prescription at the same time, or at one time. So if you are with another clinic and you want to move to another, and that's just not, us trying to steal patients from other clinics, but sometimes maybe one opens up in your area that's easier for you to go to, or you may be unhappy with the service. That could be any of our partners. You can go to another medical clinic. However, you need to wait till your prescription is expired or about to expire before you activate your new prescription. And so I'm talking about if you book an appointment with a clinic on the 17th and your prescription expires on the 20th, you can do stuff like that. You cannot have two prescriptions. You can't go to one clinic, get a prescription, go to another clinic, and get a prescription to have double your dose. So that is not allowed, and that is definitely a frequent question we get from a lot of patients. The other thing I would say is go to a cannabis-specific clinic if you would like a prescription. And the reason I say that, and I know that there's Canadian cannabis clinics and HMed here, we have the educated staff to help you. So if you have a doctor, a family doctor of your own that will prescribe, we still welcome you into the clinic to help you with that education, maybe using a patient journal to talk about your journey with the medicinal cannabis and such. And the other question I have there is, well, how much legally can I have on my person? A lot of people ask this, and it is 30 days of your prescription is what you're legally allowed.
Is there a charge to see the doctor? We can't speak for our competition in the market, but for us, the service is free. We believe that all patients should have access to medicinal cannabis, and so we do not charge a service fee for those services, but some do. So it's important to just, make sure you know what you're getting into. What is compassionate pricing? Some of our licensed producers offer compassionate pricing for veterans to reduce some of the costs associated with the purchasing of the product.
I believe this is me. The difference between psychoactive and intoxicating. So I'm sure many of you have heard, and I referred to it earlier, how CBD is quote unquote non-psychoactive. With furthering science and discussion and getting rid of improper language and using the proper methods of discussing our new industry, that's just not correct. CBD has huge effects on your brain because by definition, psychoactive effects on your brain. CBD is non-intoxicating, so you don't get high from it, but it wouldn't be beneficial for things like antidepressants or anti-anxiety if it didn't have a direct relation to your brain chemistry. So we try and change the language through discussion, through conversations like this, from non-psychoactive to non-intoxicating, because small differentiations like that is what's really going to help the educational process and the entire medical cannabis industry to remain transparent and honest to the point of what we do know and what we don't know. So we do know it affects your brain. It is psychoactive, but it does not get you high.
A lot of people say, will I get a card? Or there's green card thrown out in the industry quite a bit. You will, from some licensed producers, get a membership card or a patient card, but not all of them do it. So it's not like you're getting a Health Canada card by being registered with a licensed producers. A lot of people will say, well, can I increase my dosage over time, or will my tolerance improve over time? And the answer is yes. However, it does change per patient quite significantly. Someone's tolerance could, increase very fast, and so they need to up their dosage very fast, which is why you see our doctors every 3 months for that renewal. And we have the patient journal, so you can go through and see how the medicine is affecting you. You can always come into the clinic and speak to us about it as well, whether you have an appointment or not. The other thing is someone may be very slow, and I know that depends on each patient. So again, just really important.
On that note, again, it's not always increasing. So just cannabis is a medicine. Your ailment may change, and you may actually need to decrease your doses as well in order to be treating your situation properly. As well, changing your consumption method has a huge effect on your dose. Whether you're doing inhalation or you're doing edibles, simply switching how you choose to use your medicine can really change your whole experience and change your tolerance. For example, I'm sure there's many people who've experienced inhalation has very, very different effects from edibles, tinctures or topicals. So it really matters the method in which you're administering your medicine, directly relations to your dosage.
I just wanted to kind of leave it off with, before we take some questions, and I'm not sure where we are with time, but one of the things that I did want to mention is Compass is here to educate and empower our patients. We want you to find what works for you, and maybe that's not cannabis, but we're here to help and educate you along that road. But I think we'll open it up for questions. Do we need to give you one of our mics?
Here, take mine.
Okay, so we have 5 or 10 minutes for questions. So if anyone in the audience has any questions, just raise your hand, and I can start coming to you one by one. Surely there are a few questions out here. There we go.
We could just be really thorough.
Hi. Hi. What is the difference between inhaling THC and ingesting THC?
I'll take that. So inhalation, basically it's called a decarboxylation process. The chemicals that THC comprise of changes. Whether you heat it up and inhale it, which is what vaporization does, as well as actually smoking it. Basically it goes through your digestive system and is processed through your liver as well when you ingest edibles or tinctures. One of the most noticeable effects would be your onset time would be very, very different, and the duration of your experience. So, for example, chronic pain. We usually suggest a tincture for chronic pain because it elongates the effects of your medication. If you're someone who is suffering from extreme migraines, maybe taking inhalation would be better for you because it's instant relief. It affects speeds and duration. Huge. Without getting into the nitty-gritty Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, like Cannabis 101 on that point. But it changes the duration.
The other thing too is some people use a combination. So some people will take a tincture to help them sleep all the night through, but they'll take one small inhalation to get them to sleep. So you can do both. I just wanted to kind of add that.
Does anyone else have a question?
Please, is cannabis additive?
Addictive, sorry? Yes. So that's a hard question. Not a physician, but as far as I know, it is non-habit forming. I can't speak to the actual chemical reactions in your brain that happens, but I do know that it's not habit forming. There's also been many studies done saying that it is not considered a gateway drug. It's not something that leads down that path. And yeah, that's about all I got. I don't know the brain chemistry on that one.
Oh, I see.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me put my question in a different way. Can you stop the use at any time without any side effects?
Can you stop use at any time without any side effects? That depends on your use, your ailment, and your dosaging. Duration of use is a big component to that. If you've been self-medicating or with a prescription for a very, very long time, you are going to notice a very physical change. Whether that's on a cellular level, or if that's just a slight change in mood and the fact that you need to adjust to your different habits and your different way of life. It does show. If you're asking if there's any withdrawal symptoms or negative effects that way, there has been none to be seen, to my knowledge. Again, I can't go too into detail about those things because I'm not a doctor, but I can find you the resources to answer those questions.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that what we are seeing in the medical community as well is that there's not quite enough studies to answer these questions. We do the best that we can. We're not physicians or from a medical background before our journey into Compass, and we just don't want to answer incorrectly or give people the wrong notion. We don't know. And I would suggest any physicians out there to do their knowledge or attend the education seminars to get more clarity on that. But from what we're seeing, or from the stories and the patient testimonials, we are not seeing an issue with addiction.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, let's have a round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Cannabis Forums, for inviting us up on the stage.
And if anyone has any other questions, you can visit them at their booth in the back corner there all day.